Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Professional. My name is Riley and I am the founder and host of our podcast. Now, after an extended break, our team is excited for all the episodes we have in store for y'all this year, now, along with some special projects that are in the works. But what better way to kick things off than with the first episode of our chapter takeover series? Now, that's where Beta Alpha Psi student members have the opportunity to be in the driver's seat and lead their very own episode. Now, to learn more about the series and how your chapter can be featured on the podcast, check out the link in the show notes. But without further ado, let's pass things over to my student co-host, Brianna Alvarez from University of Florida's Upsilon chapter. Go Gators!
Hello, Beta Alpha Psi listeners today. My name is Brianna Alvarez, and I'm the president of Beta Alpha Psi at the University of Florida. And I'm joined here today by Zachary Weiner. Zachary Weiner is an alumni of our Beta Alpha Psi chapter, that is the Upsilon chapter. And he was a great vice president in his time with our chapter. And now he works at KPMG in Miami. So, hey, Zach, how are you doing today?
Hey Brianna, how's everything going? Nice to be back with Beta Alpha Psi UF.
Of course. Thanks for joining our chapter podcast. And I think we're going to have a really great conversation today. Today, I thought it would be really interesting to talk about just kind of the future of the profession, the changes that have been happening with the CPA exam, as well as just how everything is changing with NASBA proposed requirements for becoming a CPA, and just overall how the profession is going to change with the statistic that about 50% of the profession is going to retire very, very soon. So I think it's a very interesting time now to join accounting when there's not only a shortage, but also an interesting time now to join accounting where there's just so much change and so much to be done with, technology and everything. But let me not get too ahead of myself. Zach, how are you doing today?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to tackle the accounting profession and the changing aspects of it. I know that for listeners of this podcast who also listen to the accounting podcast, that was actually one of the recent topics that they discussed, and it's interesting to hear different viewpoints on the future of the profession, and especially with the statistic, like you said, that 50% of accountants are currently either partners or MDs or individuals who are available to retire. And pairing that with the decrease of accounting majors entering the workforce, it's definitely something to take note of. I'll talk to you a little bit later about my philosophy on it, what I've heard from talking to professors, both at the University of Florida, the University of Tennessee, as well as hearing from industry professionals. But in general, today is January 19th, and as you know, tax season
2025 to
is
be
picking
exact.
up, 2025 to be exact. And as tax season is starting to pick up. So I'm doing, a bunch of provision work, a bunch of provision audits, dealing with ASC 740, as well as getting ready for extension season, So KPMG's treated me good. I've enjoyed my time there. Not a plug, but it is a plug. Shout out KPMG Miami.
All
It's
right, all
been
right. We
all
all
right.
work for a big four here. I feel like UF in particular, a lot of our students that graduate from the MAC program usually go for a big four. I'll be working for Deloitte in Miami after college, and Zach just graduated in 2024, May 2024, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, just
exactly.
around.
So he fresh grad, just started with KPMG in November, right?
Yes, November 4th. I don't know.
Okay. And then I will be graduating in May of 2025 and starting with Deloitte in this fall of 2025. So hopefully we can bring some fresh perspective to you guys, pretty obviously very early in our careers, but it's interesting to be an accounting student at this time. And I think it's important to talk about it just from the student perspective, because we hear a lot from obviously the partners, the people who are higher up, the professors. There's a lot of talk about how this profession is changing from people who have already been in it, but people who are just joining it have to adapt. And this adaptation is really what's going to shape our profession. So, just to start off, before we even get to that, Zach, I want to ask just a little bit about how you got into accounting, what drew you to this profession, and just get a little bit of background on you before we get into the main conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I could draw a little bit on myself. I think we'll definitely keep it more focused to the students at Beta Alpha Psi Upsilon. But just to give some fresh background, when one of the things that we say in the industry is, nobody really grew up saying, "I want to do corporate taxation."
Agreed.
Um, but but it's funny how we all end up there. I started back in high school. I've always had an affinity for mathematics, for dealing with personal finance, financial literacy. I joined a magnet at one of the high schools that I went to, where I got to do personal finance, entrepreneurship, and accounting. And quickly, I just learned that accounting was one of the most important skills that anyone could have, as it's the language of business. And that, reality was reaffirmed when I started at the University of Florida, pursuing a degree in accounting. And I haven't looked back since. I will say, the start of your career is definitely a little bit of a grind, and everybody knows that. It's not that it's something that's hidden or sugar-coated, but I do believe that accounting, and why I've been sticking with it, is because accounting is a rewarding profession. There is so much out there to learn. The people are phenomenal. You'll never find a better group of people. The work-life balance, Forbes even ranked it for 2024 one of the top 5 work-life balance careers in the United States.
Wow.
And that's insane to think about, especially with busy season. But you think of the perks of joining, right? You talk about, the controversial or favored unlimited PTO, which I have been using very well. You can talk about the different firm shutdowns that most of the big four, big eight, top firms have, where they shut down over the summer and winter. And you can also talk about the peak season versus the off season, and the amount of learning that you get to do throughout both the networking that you get to do, the individual contact you get to have. I know that, for example, the networking in the accounting industry, accountants are always looking to meet new people, and it's not something that's necessarily stressful. It's just, good people like to find good people. So recently, I've been having a few mentors. I have a few mentors that were on the UF Board of Trustees. I have a mentor who owns his own firm that I actually took Brianna out with, and
Yeah,
it's
that was a great
honestly a good time.
conversation.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. So that's my piece of advice for people who are starting out in the accounting industry, who, are still listening through this podcast, is make sure that you are buying in. It's a great time to buy in, especially with the shortage going on, and that you get out there, meet people, and learn as much as you can. It's ultimately, that's why I find this career fascinating, is because I get to learn everything every day. It's not boring. I'm not sitting there like we were back in, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, crunching numbers with our little visor in the back corner office. No, we are using high level technology, AI interfaces, different, formula writing code technology that we're using to optimize our performance and provide a unique and specialized client experience that is far surpasses what our clients even think that they're paying for. This is something that I've been talking recently about with my manager. And so that's a little bit about accounting,
Yeah,
and about
and
me.
that honestly leads me into my next question, what I was going to ask you, because I know you're doing a lot with AI at KPMG, and I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you think advancements in technology, the AI that KPMG is specifically using, is going to help you in your tax career as a tax professional? I know you're hosting something like a training for your coworkers, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so recently I hosted an AI lunch and learn for the Miami office in regard to how we can optimize our performance during busy season by integrating AI into our capabilities. The big thing that I was trying to highlight is that AI is a tool. AI is not the end all be all, as some people may think, but
Absolutely.
AI is a language model tool. And I can get into the specifics another day about how large language models work and how they functionally, because of how they work, will never be an operational tool that's independent of the inputs you provide it. But in general, how we are using AI in the office is like our own personal aid. I use AI to research my own files when I can't find out how to do something. I open Copilot and I ask, hey, can you find some files for me that document how I can upload our tax software or roll forward prior work papers? And AI goes digging through my documents to find the appropriate document for me, saving me valuable time. Additionally, we use AI to streamline tons of different processes like code writing, since we know that AI is very proficient in Excel, Alteryx workflows, Python, and other capabilities like that, while simultaneously being good for creating new content. So, for example, the PowerPoint that I created for the Miami office was based off of an outline that I also had AI co-author.
Of course.
Of course, because it saved me a lot of time. It's not that I'm sitting here cutting corners. Of course, there's human intervention. You have to be aware of the errors and you have to
Mhm.
be vigilant about providing that quote human in the loop aspect in that you're constantly refining your inputs and the outputs. But if I can have AI write the output of what I want my presentation to be in general, provided a high quality input of some key aspects I wanted to mention, and then use that output that it generated to make a PowerPoint presentation according to KPMG's template, then that saved me 2 hours that I could be spending instead of working on this PowerPoint, charging billable hours for my client, helping to deliver them their deliverables earlier. So ultimately, the big warnings about AI that I want to just kind of highlight in regard to the accounting profession is do not rely on it. It is a
Mhm.
tool. It is there to help you. And two, be sure that you are practicing human in the loop etiquette, where you are going in and refining both inputs and outputs to ensure that it is perfect. I think a great analogy that my manager kind of gave to explain this is that treat AI like it is a new starting associate, right? The associate doesn't know anything about how to roll forward work papers, how to deliver client deliverables, where to even start the process. So if you ask your associate to do something, they'll do it. They're very eager, right? But you have to train the associate. Similarly with AI, if I ask AI, make me a PowerPoint presentation about AI, sure, it'll make me something and it'll be very generic and a basis to work off of. But if instead I say, make me a PowerPoint presentation about AI from the perspective of a tax associate, I want you to include these key words and simultaneously prepare it to have a question and answer session with a mock, um, you know, uh, simulation that we could follow through for users to sample KPMG's products. And then I upload like 5 different PDFs for it to look through. That quality of input and that quality of training that we're providing it is just that much more effective. So,
Exactly. I know I
yeah,
run into the same thing using ChatGPT for, especially for my assignments in my grad career. Like one of the biggest things that they talk about in the Mac program with regard to AI is you put garbage in, you get garbage out, right? So you want to make sure, especially in accounting, I feel like that is one of these professions that you really just have to know the material. You can't get by just asking ChatGPT to, ask, like write the journal entry for this or,
I wish.
exactly. So it's, obviously with any profession, you have to pay attention in your classes, but with regard to using AI in general, just, be very specific with your input and you should get a great output. That's what I found for my undergraduate career, especially like writing presentations, writing, PCAOB things. Sometimes, of course, AI is not always great. Sometimes I'll ask it for like a FASB codification and it gives me the wrong output. And I'm like, I asked for leases and it gave me a liability, some output like that, like something where it doesn't come out absolutely correctly. So, you have to wear a second hat and you have to make sure that what you're getting out of AI is factually correct. But it's such a great tool, as Zach has harped on this point. And I'm really grateful for having ChatGPT in my graduate career, as you probably are having it in your KPMG career for sure.
Oh my God, I love Copilot. Like
Yeah.
it's like 120. I looked it up. It's like $120 a month, but what it gives you access to, it literally, if I join a meeting late, I can ask Copilot, what did we talk about during this meeting? Can you provide me my action items? Can you provide
No
me a
way.
summary of what's going on? I use it daily. Every time I go to a meeting, I don't take notes anymore. I have
Mhm.
AI take my notes, and it saves me literally like 15 to 20 minutes every single day. And
No,
that
and that's
15 to
gonna
20
help
minutes,
us become more specialized in our career. Like that's gonna help us actually focus on the accounting at hand and get rid of the busy work, get rid of the presentation, the quote unquote rolling forward, like things like this. So I think, there's a lot of talking. I just took a course called Issues in Audit Practice, and it was a talk about, we had a whole class about, is AI going to take over our profession? And
no.
the answer, no. The answer we came to is no, because honestly, you need the accountant to figure out what's right and wrong. AI can only synthesize so much to the point where it can provide advice, but is that advice always accurate? No. And also, you're just, the client to client interface, you're always going to want to speak to an actual human. A client is not going to want to deal with AI. If they want to do that, they just go to TurboTax. So,
Yeah, and one of the big things about AI, just to kind of really dig that point in, is think about everything that you learn in accounting, right? When one thing goes up, another thing goes down. There's always a cost benefit to every decision that you make. So who's it to say that AI, with its, confirmation bias, availability heuristic, and other, errors that come from, the lack of even, understanding that AI has, since all it is just a large language model, right? Who's to say that the solution that AI gives is correct? Who's to say that the thought process behind it, there is no thought process behind AI?
mhm.
And so AI is overall a very good tool. I could talk about AI for a while, but
Yeah.
I know that we have some
No,
other
I'm
topics to
sure
get to.
AI is talked about in if you're a master's student in accounting or even just an undergrad student in accounting, I feel like it's a huge part of our career right now. So I'm sure your professors are harping on it just as much as we are, but it's a
Yes.
great tool, and just, build those build those skills now to learn AI. So then when but time comes where you work in your accounting profession, you're already familiar with the software, and then you can be able to just use it to help you. But enough about that conversation. I want to move a little bit to a little bit about the CPA exam. So, Zach, I
Mhm.
actually want to ask you, are you familiar with the proposed pathway to NASBA? So,
Yes.
for anyone who's listening that doesn't know, NASBA, which is Zach, help me here. It's the National
A
Association.
national account. Oh gosh, I'm gonna look it up
Okay,
because
it's
everything is an
basically
acronym.
it's an acronym, but it's basically who admits.
National Association of State Boards of Accountancy.
Thank you. So
Yes.
it's basically the association that when it's time to take your CPA exam, they administer it. You go through them. Okay. And then they also do a bunch of more stuff, but they're the NASBA. They bring all the state boards together, and they propose this pathway where instead of getting 150 credits to obtain your CPA license, you could get 120 credits and then have 2 years of work experience or
Yep.
1,000 hours equivalent, and then get your CPA license that way. So it's basically eliminating the need for a master's degree. You don't need the 30 extra credits on top of your 120 bachelor's. Instead, you would just get your bachelor's, work for 1,000 hours or 2 years equivalent, and then be able to be eligible to get your CPA license upon, of course, passing the exams. Zach, I want to ask
Yes.
you, obviously there's a lot of mixed opinions about this, if it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing, how it's going to affect CPA exam pass rates, how it's going
Yeah.
to affect first year associates. I just love to pick your brain a little bit of what
Sure.
you think about this proposed pathway.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about it in industry, especially as, some people in industry don't necessarily have their license yet. And some people in industry are doing their bachelor's and are intermediate and are like in between. I know that we have like I have a friend who graduated from the bachelor's, and then ended up just going straight to work. And he's going to do like a post back to try to fill his hours. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but I think that it is a good idea in theory, right? And honestly, it is a very good idea to those who don't want to pursue a master's or don't have the ability to afford the cost of the master's. However, I think for some students who are looking for a longer pathway where they can finish their exams before they start work, it's going to take away and detract from that pass rate, basically, right? Because you said that it might impact CPA pass rates. I think that that's the only issue that could probably come about from this, especially since, let's say you have, an associate like me, right? I just graduated from the University of Florida in 2024, right? I did 2 years of a master's program. And during those 2 years, I ended up taking three out of my four CPA exams, waiting to take my final exam right before I started work. If they eliminated the need for a master's, it could put students in a troubling spot where they're going to have to fulfill their 2 years of work. So they just start working right out of the gate. But then they start neglecting the CPA exam, which won't put their careers in jeopardy, but will put their longevity in jeopardy, due to having to be a manager. For those who are listening that don't know, basically you need to be a CPA to qualify to be promoted to manager or higher in any of the firms that you're in, unless if you pivot to consulting, which then you would be elevated to eventually be a principal, not a partner. And overall, I think that that might be the only troubling bit of it, but I do see a lot of benefit for your average student who may not want to go to a University of Florida, who may not want to go to a four-year university, and may just want to treat the accounting degree almost like a trade school role. I think that that provides a lot of pathway to increase the amount of enrollment, which is currently the issue plaguing the accounting world. Um, in my opinion, it's probably, an effort of the NASBA paired with the AICPA and other, school regulatory boards to kind of have a negotiation to increase the rate of accounting hires, basically, and increase the rate of accounting, enrollments, right? So as a result, I think that it's a good effort and it's a good step in the right direction. I just think the only argument against it is the academia argument, the CPA pass rate argument, and maybe even, detracting from the efficacy of the CPA license.
Yeah, so I can definitely speak on the academic portion because I've been in contact with my professor, our advisor, actually, a Beta Alpha Psi, Professor Sonia Singh. She's had helped me write a comment letter to the NASBA, actually, which you could probably read on the AICPA website. I don't know if the comment
Yeah,
letter.
I'd love to read that.
Yeah, I don't know if the comment letters are out yet, but hope they were due in early December, so probably not yet. But at the time of this recording is January 19th, so hopefully they'll be out soon. But I've actually had to write an academic letter from the academia perspective of this. Basically, the professors are saying, well, the CPA pass rates, especially now with the new pass rates that have just come out, they're at an all-time low. And students are not passing their CPA exams on the first try, and that is an issue. And taking away the master's degree, which especially at the University of Florida, where they're especially aligned with the new sections of the CEPA, so ISC, TCP, and BAR.
Mhm.
The classes here are very aligned to those new sections of the CPA, and it's just ridiculous how low the pass rates are. It's like no,
Yeah.
I think it's like 40 or 50% for FAR, if I'm not mistaken, and it just concerns me personally. Being in the process right now of taking CPA exams, um, I just hope that my 150 credits are essentially worth it. Now, that being said, when I first heard about this proposal, I was originally for it I'm very old school. My parents did not go to college. I'm first generation. So I know the value of work. I know the value of making money. And I thought, it would be very nice to just get 120 credits and go work. But Zach brings up a good point and saying that, oh, well, maybe working while taking the CPA exams is not feasible, like working a busy season with 70, 80-hour work
It's
weeks.
not. It's not.
No, no. And when I interned at Deloitte, I've done 2 internships at Deloitte. I've had seniors that weren't able to be promoted because they still hadn't passed all 4 sections of their CPA within a certain time frame. So that just concerns me, especially for CPA pass rates, because taking away the 150 credits, one, you're not getting the specialized education, and two, you're taking away time from actually studying and passing for those exams, which, by the way, take hundreds of hours out of
Yeah, they do.
essentially. So it's definitely a two-sided argument. For me, I mean, the professors have made a point to me to the point where I've wrote a comment letter saying, hey, maybe this is not the right direction. To mitigate this problem, I think that bringing more people into the profession is good. Is proposing this pathway the way to do it? I'm not sure. What I've really advocated for personally is increasing the salary, increasing the CPA starting salary, which has been a huge debate, especially like in South Florida. I know like starting salaries, all the big four firms have been kind of competing with each other. I mean, Zach can speak on that for sure. But um, Zach, I want to ask you, do you think that increasing the starting salary of the average accountant coming out of the master's program will help with the shortage of accountants?
I have a hot take, especially being, one of those people who are not currently being paid that quote higher salary. My hot take is it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem because ultimately increasing salaries will slightly increase the drive for new associates to join. But these accounting firms are not looking necessarily at trying to increase the amount of associates. And so as a result, by increasing the salaries of associates, one, they're going to have to increase the salary of the other, associates, managers, seniors, and everyone firm wide, which is going to be extremely costly. But two, when you're increasing salaries without providing another substantive way for, making people want to do accounting, it's not rectifying the problem. It's just building upon the existing problem. One of the things that one of the uh, owners of a firm that I network with, he said, and honestly, that this is the way to go, is that we need to make accounting more attractive, right? We need to make accounting more fun, more appealing, right? Because when you're sitting here today and you are about to graduate, you have a business degree. What do you see on Instagram? What do you see on TikTok? What do you see on
So
all these
you're
different apps?
arguing that we should have a TikTok influencer accounting day in my
That's not
life.
necessarily what I'm saying,
No,
but
I'm just
you know
pushing your
what
buttons,
we
but
we we always think about, like, the attractive careers is I want to be on Wall Street. I think that that'll be fun without even knowing what's going on Wall
no,
Street,
but
right?
that's what I'm aiming at. Like, you could graduate from like a master's of marketing or like a master's in business administration, anything like that, and be paid 100K out of college in like, big cities, whatever. You go graduate, like, see all 4 parts of the CPA pass, and you're making, substantially less, or you're not even making 6 figures. So it's crazy how these careers that have substantially less hours and less demanding schedules. Maybe they're
I
more
think
specialized.
I
Obviously,
think
I can.
you're missing the other side of the equation, which is career progression.
Mhm.
And this is again the accounting advertising failures that I am arguing about.
Okay.
For example, you're missing the fact that every year in accounting, the raises are much more substantial than any other career. You're missing the fact that in accounting, the path to promotion is not only going to be beneficial, but if you are a decent performer, like decent, it's almost guaranteed. You
It's
know,
linear.
what
It's a very linear
it's
path in accounting.
very linear, and it's not like these finance careers where you go work out, in investment banking, you go die for, 4 or 5 years, And then where do you go? You have to either be a hero or be a zero, right? It's not like these marketing careers where they start you high, but they start you high intentionally because you're all commission, you're working and grinding for your pay, and eventually you start stagnating out. Meanwhile, with accounting, the longer and longer you stick with it, if you do enjoy it and you do get through the busy season and everything like that, you're almost guaranteed to be on a path to being a manager. Maybe when you get to the manager level, then it starts to be hero zero and weed out. But becoming a manager in accounting is a very linear path, even a senior manager in accounting. And this is the issue with the accounting advertising that we're not presenting is that it's not attractive to these business kids for them to be like, hey, do you want to go get a hard degree? And then after you get the hard degree, be on this linear path that may exponentiate? No, that's not what we're advertising. What we're advertising is a career where you are constantly problem solving, learning the language of business, becoming an expert in specific subject matter that nobody will be so that you can generate value while simultaneously forming a network with people that are honestly amazing. And while you're at that, you might be just working during a busy season and then during off season, it's a lot more relaxed. While with marketing, you're working year round. With finance, you're working year round, you know? So it's the lack of advertising that we are not instilling in students. And students almost start looking to accounting as the
A
career that
plan,
nobody wants to
a
do.
plan B almost.
Exactly.
Like I know a lot of students in my major that started finance, started somewhere else, and no, I'm an accounting major since freshman year. I've never changed my major. Essentially 80% of my major has changed into accounting. It's never anyone's first choice. And I think that's an issue. We need to, like you said, Zach, highlight the good parts about accounting, highlight that, in the long run, it's a good career. Maybe at the jump, it's not, the best career that you could get right out of college. But you're right. You bring up a good point. Look at these managers, look at these partners. A couple of years later, they're living great lives. They're getting paid well. They have better work-life balance than they had when they were associates. And they're living great lives. And we need to highlight that in a public way, not saying, TikTok or
No,
Instagram or
no,
anything like
but
that, but I'm saying, in just a way where we can advertise accounting. I know the AICPA has made great efforts to post about accounting on their Instagram and things like this, but then again, every post that they get doesn't get much engagement. So I think if we're gonna appeal, millennials and Gen Z to accounting, we really need to do it in a way that's not essentially making the profession easier to get into, but just
exactly.
highlighting the better parts of accounting. Like you said, there's so much career progression and just so much to get in the end zone. You could start as a Big Four associate and then end up working as like a comptroller. Like you can make partner, or you could start at a small firm and work your way up. Like
Oh,
there's
you could start your own
you
business.
could start your own business. Like there's so much, and you could work essentially for any accounting finance department for any firm because you have a CPA. You're qualified to work in those career professions, and it's just a matter of learning the industry. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great point that you do bring up that it's great to make the profession. Now, how we do that, how we make the profession, more accessible, more known to people.
I think
I
it starts at the high schools. I think that
really,
I really think it starts at the high schools because ultimately we are seeing a year over year 18% drop in accounting
hmm
applicants. And as a result, kids are not applying from high school to college accounting. And so I really think that this whole pipeline starts with getting into the minds of these students in high school that, hey, accounting is a rewarding career. You want to be rich, do accounting. It's not, oh, you want to be rich, do finance, and the accounting is for the people who want stable, risk-free careers, because that's kind of what we've been hiding under the mise of, right? In reality, you want to be rich, do accounting. I run a small little side tutoring business, KPMG approved, and that tutoring business, I do my own bookkeeping. I keep my own records because I want to do that analysis. it's not that I would have known, like, hey, I'm setting up an S corp or an LLC. How do I know how to do that? But I learned how to learn how to do that from my CPA. I learned how to learn to make my
So
company.
you're
I
saying maybe in high school, start with the financial literacy, start with the learning about taxes that early. And
Yeah.
no, but essentially, because
No, I'm not even joking. You're
no,
correct.
but I've had a job since I was 18 years old. And even then, like
Period.
having to figure out how to go on, I keep bringing up TurboTax, but TurboTax,
No,
and
it's true. It's
it's
true.
true, like going on those websites.
IRS free file. Nobody knows
I
about
know
it. Like,
H&R Block, like these things that are like financially common. I know of stories of people who have worked since they were like 17 years old and didn't even know that they had to pay taxes and then didn't even file their taxes because no one taught them to do that. So
exactly.
it's ridiculous. If any Beta Alpha Psi president or, events coordinator is listening, University of Florida actually did a really great event on this. So we partnered with one of our professors and we had a bunch of students from a local Jacksonville high school come into the University of Florida. It was about 100 kids or so. They learned a little bit about what accounting was. It was all set up by our professor because our professor was an alumni of that high school. But she brought in 100 kids.
Wow.
They came and did a presentation about, hey, what is accounting? Maybe this is the asset or this is the area of business that you want to get into. Because all of the students that came, the 100 high school students, they were all interested in business, but we were trying to pivot them into accounting. So we taught them, hey, this is what accounting is. We did a little presentation, all the professors spoke, and then we did a little scavenger hunt around the school. So I know a lot of presidents are trying to figure out how do we get our reaching out points. That's a great way. Invite your local high schools to your university, rent out, a lecture hall or something, and just teach them about a little bit of financial literacy. I think it could honestly go a long way.
Wow.
But yeah, no, we did that with Professor Cindy Dosh, which I know Zach, you TA'd for her.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Cindy. Cindy was a good person to TA for. Top
Yeah.
tier.
And our professor previously, before she came back to her mater, she was working at UI for several years. So it was
Yep.
great that she was able to bring accounting back into, the local area. Obviously, we're in Gainesville, but Jacksonville is not too far away. But Zach, I just want to ask you like final thoughts here.
Mhm.
What advice, whether you're a student in accounting or maybe you're in high school listening to this, or, whether you're a seasoned professional, maybe we'll have some BAP alumni or, professionals listening to this podcast. What, I know you're only so early in your career, you've only been in it for a few months. Do you have any just advice or just recollections that you could give to those people listening to this podcast about, just the future of accounting, everything we've talked about today, all the changes?
Look, every year Congress sits down and they decide what legislation they're going to pass. They decide what changes to the tax law they're going to pass. They decide what changes to Sarbanes-Oxley, the accounting code, everything that there is that they're going to pass. And when they pass it, it provides simultaneously both a headache and an exciting opportunity for accountants. Constantly, the accounting world is changing. Whether you are entering and there's a new law in place, or you're entering and there's a new company in place, or there's a new system and a new structure, everything in the business world will revolve around accounting. I think that right now is a more exciting time to join accounting than ever, especially with the new adaptation of tools like AI and industry professionals who are looking to excel at their careers while simultaneously looking to increase pay. I think that accounting is never going to go away. And I think that no matter how good AI technology or automation gets, even outsourcing gets, I think that the role for accountants will not only not diminish, but it'll become stronger every year as we shift from being bookkeepers to being more advisors. So, what I advise students is take a look at accounting, see what it can do for you, see what you can learn. Ultimately, accounting is about what you can learn, not necessarily about the journal entries or not necessarily about the tax code, but how you learn and prosper from it. At KPMG, I get to do this every day. I get to learn from both the people around me. I get to learn from the AI tools that I get to use, and I get to learn through teaching, which is a very underappreciated skill that people don't realize accounting is filled with. I get to teach interns stuff that I learned 2 months ago, and through that process, get to learn even more. I think that accounting is a very people-focused industry, people-first industry, even if you just want to go on that.
Yeah.
And I think that students have a lot of opportunity with accounting that it won't go away. So my advice, if I could give like any piece of advice in regard to accounting, is network. Meet people and start talking. I don't care how you meet them. I don't care where you go. I don't care who you reach out to or how many times you do. Getting that phone call, at least on my end, is some of the most rewarding things I've gotten in the world. Giving that phone call is even just as rewarding. I learned so much from my mentors, both inside and outside of KPMG, every single day. I learn about the different industries and the different businesses, and I'm starting to learn how to be what we call a mile wide and an inch deep, knowing a little about a lot of different things. And that's what accounting ultimately is. You get to learn how to be an advisor. You get to learn how to help grow businesses in ways that people don't know how to grow. And guess what? For the entrepreneurs that are out there, that's why accounting is good for you, is because you will learn how to grow your business, analyze your business, and forecast your business like nobody else will, and make connections while you do it.
I definitely agree. Honestly, Zach has been a great mentor to me, a great tutor as
Well,
well.
thank you.
If
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking about your tutoring business.
No
If anyone
solicitation.
needs a financial reporting tutor,
Please, no, I
Zach is
don't
your
have space.
person.
I don't have space.
No, it's okay. But yeah, Zach's in busy season right now. So maybe in the summer. But
Yeah,
anyway,
in the summer, no. Thank you
definitely.
for the shameless plug.
Yeah, but look, if you even have the slightest interest in accounting, or maybe you're just a seasoned professional, maybe you haven't gotten out too much, maybe you're just, hanging out, doing your own thing. Just, it's always good to reach out. It's always good to, use your LinkedIn. It's always good to talk to more people. I think just making connections this early in our life, I think that's something our generation especially lacks, is just making connections, talking to people, learning how to talk out of the phone and just have a real
Mhm.
based conversation. And I'm glad that I found a friend like Zach where we can have conversations like this and have really interesting conversations to at least
For
record for the Big
sure.
Alpha Side podcast, but also,
Love Beta Alpha Psi.
no, but trust me, we talk about these things outside of the podcast too. This is
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, so it's just great to that if our generation, especially the Gen Z, if we could, get off our phones for lack of better words and just have conversation, network with the people in our careers. There's a lot of accountants, a lot of CPAs out there that are so happy to give their knowledge and so happy to, take us out to breakfast, take us out to lunch, and just pick our brains and talk about all the problems that we talked about today in our profession, just talk about how we can make it better for us and how we can make this profession more accessible to, you know, people of less fortunate income, people of minorities, people who really need access to this profession, but may not
Mhm.
have it initially because of these systemic barriers. So I think it's a really great thing to network, just again, use your LinkedIn, use your professors, use your connections, just build your network as much as possible, no matter where you start, where you work. It's always great to know the people around you. But
Yep.
anyways, thank you, Zach, so much. Again, Zach is a Beta Alpha Psi alumni of the Upsilon chapter at the University of Florida. My name is Brianna. I am the current president of the University of Florida Beta Alpha Psi chapter. Zach, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Bree. Good luck with everything.
You as well.
Hey everyone, Riley here with the credits. This episode, titled From Classroom to Boardroom, Accounting's Evolution with Zachary Weiner, was hosted by Brianna Alvarez from the Upsilon chapter at University of Florida and accompanied by special guest Zachary Weiner. Music was sourced from Resolute Audio and Fine-Tune Music on Adobe Stock. Huge shout out to Beta Alpha Psi, the national chapter, for their financial support and keeping the podcast going strong. If you haven't already, please join the Alumni and Member Network. Details can be found in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Becoming a Professional.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Beta Alpha Psi or our respective employers or universities.